Hey there. So, a little birdie was telling me that you were having some trouble shaving. It's not to worry. It's a fairly complex thing to do. So, I don't blame you necessarily for, being stumped by that process, but that's what I'm here for. Okay? I'm here to help you. I'm here to assist you in figuring out how it's done, and I will stay here for as long as it takes for you to understand the process fully. All right, I'm here for you. Okay, so I will go over every little detail if that's what needs to be done. That's perfectly okay with me. Sound good? All right, great. I'm glad we're on the same page. All right, so well, first things first. If you're going to shave, well, you're gonna need a razor. I happen to have a razor right here. Now, when I show you this, you might be thinking to yourself, Connor, are you stupid? That doesn't look like a razor. Now, trust me, I understand how confusing this can be. I too was a bit stumped by this when I received it in the mail. Because I thought, there's what am I going to do with this? This isn't a razor. There's no blade. How does it cut anything? It didn't make sense to me. But thankfully, I had someone to help me along, and now I'm here to help you along. So trust me, as confusing as it is, we can get through this. All right, so this may not seem like a razor, but it is technically a part of a razor. It is not a complete razor, so there are other parts to it. I know I'm not trying to get too far ahead of myself, right? But yes, this is a part of a razor, and we will add some parts to it, and then we can get to shaving. All right, so this is the handle. I'll just go ahead and explain that this is the handle. This is the part that you hold while you're shaving, because you don't want to have your hands on the blade, right? That would just be kind of dangerous and potentially unsanitary. So it needs a handle, and this is that handle. This is what you hold while you shave. Could be your face, could be any other part of your body. It works, the process is pretty similar. Now, obviously, there are some principles that we'll go over a bit later, but I'm getting ahead of myself. And here we have a box. Now, in this box is the most important aspect of any razor. This box actually contains the blades, the razor blades themselves. Now, these are the things that actually cut the hairs off of your body. So this is a highly important aspect of the package. All right. So we're gonna put the handle down. I'm sure the handle is thankfully not super complex. It's a little complex for sure. There's a bit of complexity here, but overall this is somewhat simple. If you don't quite understand it yet, don't feel bad. All right, I'm not trying to make you feel bad, but just know this is the handle. We're going to put it aside for just a moment. Right now we're going to focus on the box. The box is very important, okay? Because like I said, the box contains the blades, but unfortunately, like any box, it has to be opened in order to get its contents out. And so that's going to be a struggle in and of itself, because this box, I'm sure you've come across other boxes before. Lots of things are put in boxes these days. But this box looks a little different than most boxes you've probably come across. So I can understand how this could be a little confusing. Opening this and extracting its contents is a slightly different process than you may be used to. So we're going to go over this in painstaking detail. All right. So first thing you're going to want to do is examine the box. So I'm going to put it up here where you can see the box. All right. The box is made of two components. It's got a bottom half and a top half. If you'll notice, it was very kind of the manufacturers to actually use a different material for each of the halves, so they are very easily identifiable. All right, up here you've got the top half, and on the bottom half. Now, if I were to do this, suddenly this becomes the bottom half and this becomes the top half. Now, technically, this translucent material is always the top half. But yes, depending on how you hold things, sometimes the bottom will be on top and the top will be on bottom. But just know, all right, that this translucent material, this kind of clearish, semi-transparent material, is technically always the top. Now, I know that's a little confusing. It's not, imperative that you understand that. But it is generally always the top half. Now, a trick, if you will, a little tip. I like to give you little tips, all right? For remembering that the translucent side is always the top half is that you'll notice that it is a little bit thinner than the bottom half. So the bottom half, this bluish material, it's a little dark. So I don't know how the camera's actually going to be picking any of this up. It'll be a little bit of a test of the low light capabilities of my phone because it is a very overcast day and it is very dark today. But either way, this material is blue, even if it doesn't show up. It's a very dark blue, but it is blue. And you'll notice that it is just ever so slightly thicker than the translucent half. So that's a good way of telling you that this is the bottom. Because if you think about like a boat, the bottom of the boat is the biggest part, but a lot of it is under the water because that's how a boat works. So like this is kind of like a boat. Like you could think like the halfway point is like where the water would be, and then like this would be under the water. Because like if it was like this, then the water probably wouldn't be there because it would be deeper. You know what I mean? That's just one way to think about it. All right. Another way to think about it is just that you see the translucent half, and that is the top, and then the blue half is the bottom. Now, I'm a little hesitant to use that as an identifier of which side is the top and the bottom, simply because, down the line, they might not continue to use these same materials. They could change their manufacturing process. So it is conceivable that at some point in the future, potentially they start making the top half out of a blue material and the bottom half out of a translucent material. And I wouldn't want you to get confused at that point later on and think, oh, well, the translucent side is always the top side like it is right now. And then you open it like this and it's upside down. I wouldn't want that. So yeah, just use the boat method. The bottom side is a little bit thicker than the top side. So yeah. So that is the two halves of this box. A few other key features before we start attempting to open it. Just hang in there with me for a little bit. You'll notice on this side of the box. So you've got the top half and the bottom half. If we turn it 90 degrees, you'll notice that on this side of the box there is a little detail here. Now this is called a hinge, because this box, unlike most boxes, they're either taped shut or they have some other kind of mechanism that opens them. This box has a hinge. This is a hinged box, all right? Because like with a cardboard box, the flaps open by just the material that they're made out of is a flexible material. So this material is not very flexible. I mean, it is just a bit flexible. I can kind of, warp it if I squeeze it, but it is not really meant to bend in the same way that a cardboard box is meant to bend. So instead they have a hinge here. Now the hinge allows the box to open without breaking it, and this is an important detail. But the hinge is also important for the person opening the box because it informs the person that is the side which the opening movement happens, right? So we know by looking at this box right here, we can see this hinge and we know that the top half is going to open around this side. It's not going to open around this side, right? Because that's not how hinges work. So we know for a fact that the box is going to open like this. It's not going to open like this, all right? So that is an important detail to keep mind of, all right? Is, where the hinge is. Now on the other side, so we've got the hinge on this side, right? The hinge is right here. If we spin the box 180 degrees, on this side we've got a clasp. Now the clasp keeps the box shut, because without the clasp, the box would just be able to open and close willy-nilly, and we wouldn't want that because, well, inside this box are sharp razors, and it could be dangerous potentially if, the box just opened on its own and the razors got out, because then they could slice things open, and you wouldn't want that. So the clasp keeps the box closed no matter what. So you can see I'm trying to just shake the box open, and it's not happening. Now, unfortunately for us, the clasp does add a good bit of complexity to the box and the process of opening it, but that is a safety feature. That's just the way the world works. Typically, the more safe something becomes, the harder it becomes to use, right? So they have added a bit of safety to this box, but a side effect of that is that it is a bit harder to get open, but that's okay, because I do think that it's worth it a little bit, and of course, I'm here to help you open the box regardless of its complexity, so it's not that big a deal. So anyway, that is the box in a nutshell. There's nothing really on these other two sides. They are just flat. There's not really any details. There's a lot of holes in this box, you might notice, but those are mostly just there to, I don't know what they're there for, honestly. I guess to drain, because you think a razor might get wet, and if you put the razors back in here and they're wet, then you want them to dry instead of just being wet, I guess. But I don't know why you would ever put a wet razor in here. I'm not exactly sure, to be honest. Maybe it's a cost-cutting measure. There's even things that fall outside my umbrella of knowledge, I'll be completely honest. Now, I don't want you to get the wrong idea and think that I'm unqualified to be telling you how to shave and how to open this box and make a razor and all those things, because I am. All right, I'm 100% qualified to do those things. But yes, I'm not 100% sure why this box has so many holes and things. I'm not sure. But that's besides the point, because you don't need to know that in order to know how to do the thing I'm trying to tell you how to do. All right, that's the main point. So anyway, we've got this box, and now you completely understand this box, and that's important. That's step one. Well, I guess step one was knowing that this is the handle of the razor and that this box contains the razor blades. So knowing the box is step two, I guess. Let's go on to step three, shall we? I hope you're still following with me. Step three is going to be opening the box, all right? Now, this is where, so far we've just kind of been explaining things, but now we're going to start demonstrating things. You're going to have to start following along here. You're going to have to use some of your fine motor skills to, really put this into practice. So the difficulty of this task is about to jump up, and I don't want you to get all startled. I don't want you to get discouraged by the seeming complexity of the task, right? It's going to get harder. I don't want you to get surprised, but I know you can handle this. All right, so just follow along with me. So anyway, so we've got the box. As I demonstrated, the box has a hinge side and it has a clasp side, and the box is also divided in two halves, with the bottom half being the thicker side and the top half being the thinner side. So if we are holding the box like this, right? All right, we're holding it from the bottom. That's somewhat important, but technically you can open the box like this, but okay, I feel like I'm making this too difficult. Let's focus on opening it the correct way, okay? So the correct way to open it would be to hold it from the bottom, all right? So we're holding it from the bottom. We have the hinge on this side. You can see the hinge right here, and we've got the clasp on this side. So we're holding it like this. And like I said before, because we know the hinge is on this side, that means that the box we know is going to open around the hinge, right? It's going to open in that direction. So that gives us a bit of an advantage when it comes to figuring out how to open this box. Now, the trick to opening the box, and this is where, again, things are going to get a little bit more difficult, but I know you can handle this. So we've got the clasp side. Now, you'll notice you'll notice that if I try to open it without using the clasp, that it doesn't work. I'm going to need you to forget anything you just saw within the last 5 seconds. If I try really hard to open the box, it doesn't work. That's because the clasp is really good. And it definitely wouldn't be manufactured to just be able to be ripped open, because that could be dangerous. So we can't do that, okay? You can't just use your animalistic instincts to just try and break it open. It's not going to work. It's too good for that. So there is a correct way to do this, and I'll show that to you now. So what you're going to want to do, you're going to want to take your hands, all right? And you'll notice on each of your hands you have 10 fingers. Now, I've been holding this box the whole time, and I'm going to assume that you know how to hold things, so I've kind of glanced over that to a bit, but, I think you know how to hold things, so that's okay. I mean, I've made videos previously discussing how to hold things and use your hands, so if you're unsure of how to do that, maybe you should watch those videos first, and then you can come back to this video. That's kind of like a precursor to this video, I suppose, but I'm going to assume that you know how to do that. So you've been holding the box the whole time, right? While holding the box in one of your hands, you're going to want a free hand here. Now, thankfully, this box is not so heavy or so large that it can't be held with one hand. I would say that most individuals would probably be able to hold this with one hand. The exception being potentially an infant with really extremely small hands. But the upside to that is that A, an infant doesn't need to shave, and B, an infant probably shouldn't be around razors in the first place. So, that kind of works out in a way. I don't know if that was an intentional design element of this box and the system, but it just kind of works out. Sometimes things just work out like that. But anyway, you're going to want to hold the box in one hand. Now, you're going to want to notice, depending on how you hold it, it might be kind of challenging to open it up, right? So if I hold it like this, I'm probably not going to be able to open it very easily because, well, I'm kind of keeping it closed with my hand. You don't really want to do that. So I recommend, and this is just me personally now, of course, there's many ways to do things in this world. Lots of opportunities to do things your way. That's perfectly fine. But the way I prefer to do things is I prefer to hold it like this. I have my fingers on either side of the bottom half only. This leaves the top half completely unobstructed so that I can open it rather easily. But again, you can do it however you like. You could also, if you choose, I mean, this will be kind of hard to demonstrate because my hand is not that flexible, but you can just hold it by just placing it on your hand as if your hand was like a table, and then, you can open it however you like. The one downside to using that method in particular, though, is that there's nothing really holding the box in place, right? When I do this, I can't move the box with my other hand because, well, my hand is stopping my other hand from doing that, right? So when you just do this, it's kind of, you can do whatever you want with it. It doesn't have that level of resistance that you kind of need in order to pull off this task, right? So you do whatever you want. It's perfectly fine. But I prefer to hold it like this. So I have my thumb on one side and I'm holding it with 2 fingers on the other side. If you can see that, it's a pretty solid grip. I feel like I'm not going to lose grip of it, which is important because once again, there are sharp razors in here that you wouldn't want to suddenly drop, and it could lead to injury potentially. You don't want to do that. So it's a pretty secure grip, and it also doesn't obstruct the top half, like I said. So that is good. Anyway, so we've got the hinge. The hinge is on this side. If you can see, the hinge is right here. We've got the hinge right here. And we've got the clasp right here. All right, so we've got the clasp and we've got the hinge. So we're going to be holding, I guess that's also an important feature. I've got the clasp facing out and the hinge facing in, if that makes sense. So if I were to hold it like this, that would make it a little bit harder for me to open the box because, well, my free hand is on this side and the clasp that I need to get at with this hand is on the other side. It's kind of weird to have to like reach over that, so I do recommend that you hold the box so that the clasp side, which you can see right here, that the clasp side is facing your other hand, right? Your free hand. And then the hinge side that you can see right here, the hinge side is facing away or just facing back at you. I'm kind of doing this towards you so that you can see what I'm doing, but when you're doing this yourself, you may find that it is easier to kind of face it towards you. Personally, that's the way I do it, but because I'm doing this as a demonstration, I'm kind of doing this towards you, but you don't have to do it that way. Anyway, so we're holding it like this. We've got the clasp side over here, the hinge side over here. All right, this is the optimal position to put yourself in when you're attempting to open this box. Now what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take your free hand, and you'll notice that there's a little lip here. I don't know how well you can see this, but there is a little lip on the clasp. Now this little lip allows you to get your finger to like get some purchase on this clasp, right? So that you can kind of peel it back. You know what I was saying about how the material is not super flexible, but it can kind of be flexed if you try hard enough. We're going to kind of take advantage of that right now by just kind of applying some pressure. Now to apply that pressure, what I'm doing is I'm taking my finger and I'm putting it on that lip, and then I'm also taking my thumb and putting it on the bottom so that I can kind of create a bit of leverage with my hand to get some of the weight off of this clasp, because like I said, this clasp is extremely high quality, and in order to open the box you need to get the clasp open, because the box is never gonna ever open without you doing that. It's just too high quality. So anyway, what we're gonna do is we're going to do that, and then as we do that, you'll notice I've kind of transferred the box to my other hand. Now this hand is the free hand, and this hand is now the hand that is holding the box. I know that that's a little confusing, but trust me, when you start doing it yourself, I think it'll really make a lot of sense. It'll really click, especially if you're someone like me who learns more from experience than, reading or theorizing something, right? So you're holding it with this hand, then you start applying the pressure with this hand, and suddenly you can, transfer it to this hand. So this hand, the hand that was originally holding the box, is now free. This is important because you need another hand to actuate the box, right? So right now we're holding the box like this. We're applying pressure. You can think of it as I'm trying to close the distance between my thumb and my finger, but because the box is in the way, it's not able to happen. But I can still put that force into my hand and it'll still actuate the box, if you will. So we've got the box like this, and what we're going to do is we're going to grab the top half. Now you just want to grab the top half, because if you grab the bottom half, you'll notice it just kind of takes the whole box and the box doesn't get opened. That's a rookie mistake. I've made that mistake in the past, so just try not to make that mistake. It might take you a few tries to get the hang of it, but it's very important that you only grab the top half. And you'll remember once again that the top half in this case is translucent in material, but it is also the side that is a little bit thinner, right? So this is the top half up here. And what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to grab it. Now, again, when I grab it, what I'm doing is I'm grabbing it with my thumb on one side and my two fingers on the other side, and I'm grabbing it just like that. All right, if you can see that, I've got my thumb on one side and my two fingers on the other. Now when I put my hand back there and I apply that force on the clasp, what you'll see what happens is when I grab the top half only and I pull up, you want to pull up with your hand that is grabbing the top half, and you want to keep this hand that is holding the clasp, you want to keep that still. So when I pull up, you'll notice that the box opens, and you'll notice once again that the hinge side is over here, and like we predicted earlier, the box opens around the hinge side. So we have the hinge right here, and the box opens just like that. It's pretty amazing what you can do when you understand how things work. So anyway, we've gotten the box open, and you'll notice there are some razor blades in here. Now, you'll notice one of the razor blades is missing because that one was used. But the beauty of this system is that there are multiple razors in here, so that you can use and dispose of some of them, and there are still some more. All right, so don't worry too much about that. Your box might have more or less razors, but the process is the same. So in this particular box, they might make boxes of different sizes, but the principles are still the same. In this box, there are 4 locations where razors may reside. In this case, one of these locations is empty, and these 3 are filled with razors. All right, so what you're going to want to do, because we've got, remember, don't forget, I know we've gone through a lot here, and it might have been easy to forget that we have this, but the razor blade handle is still very much a part of this. We have the handle down here, and we need one of these blades. Now, again, you're going to want to inspect the box and discern which of these locations actually contains a razor, right? A razor blade, razor cartridge. They go by a lot of names, but the naming convention is not super important. All that you need to know is that you need to locate which one of these you want to use. You can't use this one, as you can see, because there is nothing there. But you can use this one, or this one. So you can use any of these. I'm going to use this one simply because I like the idea of continuing down the line. Now, obviously, you can use whichever one you want, but I am going to attempt to use this one for this demonstration. So, we have the box open. We're holding it in our hand. That is good. We are most of the way there already. What you're going to want to do now is you're going to want to locate the razor, which we have done. We've decided that we're going to use this one, and now we need to extract the razor from the box. And it sounds complicated and it sounds tricky, but I promise you, it's not that bad. If you've gotten this far, you can 100% handle this next step. Anyway, so this is the razor that we want to extract. What we're going to want to do is we're going to want to grab it. Now you'll notice if I kind of give you a side profile here, I hope you can kind of see this. You'll notice that some of them are they're sticking up out of the box, and that gives you a little bit of something to kind of grab onto, you know, because you don't want to put your hands on the blades. Now the blades are down in here. It's a pretty well-designed box so that the blades are facing away from you, so it's not really that easy. In fact, it could be potentially completely impossible to cut yourself at this step, and that's important because you don't want to cut yourself. I understand that this task is intrinsically a little dangerous, but they have done a good job of ensuring that, you know, they alleviate as much of the danger as possible. Obviously, when dealing with razors, there's always going to be a little bit of danger that you just can't get rid of because it's a razor. But they have done a good job of ensuring that they make it as safe as possible. So you'll notice we have these little things sticking up. That's what we're going to grab. And once again, we're going to try to extract this one. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to grab this one. Now, you want to keep hold of the box, right? Because if you don't, and we go to grab this, all of a sudden we can't get it out because, well, you know, it's just... We're basically just holding onto the box, even though we're just holding onto the razor. Now, that's a concept that is really hard to get a grasp of. We're not going to go over that in this video, but suffice to say, if you let go of the box with your other hand, there's basically no chance that you're going to be able to get the razor out with just one hand. So it's important that you keep a good grip on the box right now. Once again, I'm using a pretty similar grip that I was before. It's my thumb on one side and my 2 fingers on the other side. The only difference with this particular situation is that before I had my thumb and fingers on the same half of the box, But now that the box is open and there is an articulating elements to it, I have one finger on one half of the box, one finger on the other half, and then my thumb kind of resides between the two, and that kind of just keeps it from being able to, close back up, because we don't want the box to close back up before we've gotten the razors out of it, because then we'd have to open the box back up, and as I've already demonstrated, that can be kind of a lengthy process. So keeping the box open is very important. So that is the grip I'm using to keep the box open. Of course, you can use whatever method you want. If you want to put the box on a table and tape it down so that it can't close, that is also a valid method, but you may choose which one you want to actually use. So I'm holding the box so that it can't get away from us, and we're going to go ahead and grab the razor. Now, you know what I was saying earlier about using your animalistic instincts to just rip it open, rip the box open? I said earlier that that was not a good method for opening the box because the clasp was too high quality to allow something like that. Now, that was for opening the box. Now, when it comes to getting the razors out of the box, I actually do highly recommend that you just rip it out. This is simply because I personally think that that's the best method, but that's just me. So what I like to do, I've got the box in my hand, 2 fingers on one side, thumb in the middle on the other side. We're going to grab this, and then in one motion, we're just going to rip it out, all right? You don't have to, I think a part of that is good because, you don't have to really think about it. You just grab it and you just rip. In order to do that, let me just put it back in here. You don't need to know how to put it back in because we're not going to deal with that right now. But to do that, all you're going to want to do is, so you're going to want to get a good grip on the razor blade. As you can see here, I've got the blade in my hand and I've got the box in my hand. And what you're going to want to do is just separate your hands as fast as possible. And they should come apart. So that's good. So now in one hand we have a razor and in the other hand we have the box. Now you'll notice that we've taken the razor out. Now 2 of these slots are actually empty and 2 of them have razors in them. That's because before we had 3 spots that had razors and 1 that was empty. So we've taken the razor out of this spot and it's empty now. So what do? Well, we're going to want to close this box, but that might be kind of tricky to do with only one hand. But at the same time, this is a razor, and it's kind of dangerous. So maybe we don't want to just put this down. But it's okay, because we're going to just put this down. So as safely as possible, I want you to just place this on any surface. Ideally not the floor, for a couple of reasons. First reason being that the floor is a dangerous place to put a sharp object because, well, you stand on the floor and you wouldn't want to step on the razor. Second reason being is that the floor is generally not that clean, and it's pretty important that the razor stays clean because, well, it's coming into contact with your skin, and it has the ability to cut you, and if it's really dirty, then the germs and bacteria that are on the razor could get into your blood and give you some disease, and we don't want that. So it's imperative that you keep the razor as clean as possible, and putting it on the floor is not a good way to accomplish that task. So we're going to put it on a table that's right in front of us. If you don't have a table, you could put it in your pocket, but I don't recommend that. We're going to put it on the table. I'm sure you probably have a table. So now we have this box, right? And it is open and we need to close it. Now you'll notice, you can see the hinge on the inside here. It splits the 2 halves in half. It's pretty handy there. So we know by looking at this hinge and where it is that the box is going to close back up like this. It's going to close back up like this. So what we're going to want to do is we're actually going to use that grip that we were using before with the thumb on one side and our 2 fingers on the other side, but we're actually going to double that grip up. So we're doing that on both sides, if you can see that. So my thumb is on both of the halves on either side, and we have 2 fingers on either half. All right, that is the grip that we are going to use. And what we're going to do now is we're just going to kind of push our fingers together. Now, if you just push them straight together, you might notice a bit of resistance at first, but if you kind of, wiggle it a bit, you might start to get to this position. And from here, it is really easy. You're just going to push your fingers together until the box is back together, and you'll notice it is once again closed. So that is a closed box. I'm really proud of you for figuring that one out. We're going to put the box down. It is once again a fairly safe object now that it's completely closed, so you don't have to worry too much about being safe with it, even though it does contain razors. Now, once again, I must advise you to not put it on the floor, just because that's kind of dirty. But again, you may do what you wish. It is your life. I'm not going to tell you how to live it. Now we're going to come back to the handle. So we've got the handle, and we now have the razor. Wow, look at that. Now, this is important. You want to be careful because this razor is no longer in the box and the blades are exposed. So you want to be careful that you do not touch the razors, again, for sanitary reasons, but also for safety reasons. Avoid touching them as much as you can. It's also important to familiarize yourself with the location of the razors. So this particular razor blade has several blades that are on this face of the razor cartridge, if you will, but it also has one blade that is on this side of the razor. They put that there just so you can get at certain areas that may have been harder to get at with the more broad side of this razor. So yeah, just keep in mind that there is a razor blade on this top edge. You don't want to forget about that, because if you grab it from that side, you could cut yourself. So it is best and most advisable that you only hold the razor cartridge from the bottom section here. There are no blades here. It's just plastic, and it is safe to hold from that position. So we have our handle and we have our blade. We need to combine the two to make our final razor that we can then use to shave. So how do we do this? It's pretty simple. I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty simple. I know I've said that about quite a few things that have maybe not been that simple, but I think with enough practice, you can really get this down. You'll notice that the handle has two ends. It has this end and it has this end. This end is nothing. You'll know it's nothing because it's all orange. All right, you can think of orange as no. As in, no, this side is not the side that you connect the razor to. Now, your razor might not be orange. In that case, you're fucked. But don't worry. I don't know how to explain this. Needless to say, we're going to be attaching the razor to this side, okay? So it's pretty simple. You're going to want to take the razor with the end that you're holding, and you'll notice, if you can look at that and see that, and again, I know it's really dark, and hopefully this isn't like super fucking dark, but it's probably very dark. There is a hole on this side of the razor, and you'll notice that hole is oddly shaped very similarly to this peg that comes out of the razor handle. That's on purpose. What you're going to want to do here is you're going to want to line up that hole with that peg, and you're going to want to push your hands together. Now again, don't do this with a bunch of force. Don't do this very recklessly, because you are handling a bunch of sharp blades. So you want to be very careful. You don't need to apply a bunch of force. You just need to be as accurate as possible. So you want to line up these two things, the peg with the hole, and you want to insert it and push until you hear that click. I'm going to do that a little bit closer to the microphone so that you can hear that click. But here we go. Did you hear that? That click. That click tells you that the razor is in place, and now you have a completed razor that you can shave with. It has a handle, a very large handle that you can now grab and safely use. because obviously, I mean, technically, you could use the razor just like this, right? But this is not a very large handle. It doesn't give you a lot of control over the razor, and it could be fairly dangerous, especially when your hands will get slippery with shaving foam and stuff like that. So yeah, I do highly recommend that you do connect it to a razor, a handle, and now we have a handle that we can use. It's less likely to slip out of our hands, and it gives us more control when we are shaving. So that is how you do that. Yeah, that's basically it. I'm not going to bother showing you how to take the razor off because they last a decent amount of time, so it'll probably be a little while before you need to know how to do that. And yeah, so there you go. I hope you learned something. And hopefully this video wasn't in pitch black. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll catch you later.